All right, I'm told it is 6 o'clock, so we're going to call this meeting to order in accordance with South Carolina Code of Laws 1985, Section 30-4-80-E. The following have been notified of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting: the Herald, the Charlotte Observer, CN2, and WRHI. I am going to mention that Ms. Branning is not with us in person tonight. She is on her way to Indiana, so she is listening in. And Wayne is here, but he has stepped out and will be right back in just a second. So that's what's going on. If you all would please join me for just a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everyone, for joining on this slightly off-schedule kind of a meeting because of the Labor Day holiday. You have all received a copy of the agenda. Were there any adjustments or corrections? No. All right, then that will stand with unanimous consent. And we're going to start off with some exciting recognition. So I don't know if you're doing it or...
I think the coach is here.
We've got some, there he is. All right, we've got the recognition of the Nation Forward High School Track Team State Championships. Come on up.
To the podium. Brag on your group.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank Fort Mill, the school system school district, for allowing me to be a part of the school to coach some fine young men and women. I'd like to thank Coach Chandler. Well, I call him Coach Chandler. We coached together at Rocky High, but Mr. Chandler, I'd like to thank Mr. Chandler for allowing me to be a coach at Nation Forward. I'd like to also thank our parents for just trusting in myself and the coaching staff for working with their children. I said it before, with the young men that we have on our team, Xavier, Neil, and a group of others. I know it's their day, so we just go stick with them. But in 20-something years of coaching, I've never been around a group of guys like Xavier, Neil, and the others that's so respectful. And I've been at so many meets this year and last year where they talk about the type of people that we have on our team, as far as how respectful they are and how encouraging they are, and just the way they, the character that they display. And I think that's a testament to the school district itself, the parents, the coaching staff, and to one another. They hold one another accountable. But Xavier is now is in college at Benedict, and won the 200 in the state and was state runner-up, and we were third in the 4x1. He's the second guy in Fort Mill to ever win in the 200. Neil won in the long jump and in the 400 hurdles. The first guy in Fort Mill to ever win in long jump and in the 400 hurdles. He also is the fastest guy in York County. So in the 400 hurdles, and like I told y'all last year when we were here for the girls 4x4 team and the 4x in Mia, that we will be back here again. So here we are. And Mia, she's not here. She went to West Point, so she's going through basic training right now. But she's also another runner that we had. I mean, to be honest, someone you can't replace, and actually Xavier as well, but we have Neil back. But Neil is another one that we can't replace. She broke the state record in the 1600 and came back and won the 800. So just to have a group of young men and women to coach at Nation Forward is, I mean, it's a blessing for me. They make the job so much easier. I got an offer at Northwestern to come coach there this past year, and I'm like, I can't leave my group. So so I stayed with this group. But once again, I would like to thank Xavier, Neil, Mia, and for everything they have done for the school, for the program, for me as a coach. They make me seem like I'm a great coach, but it's all due to them. I like to thank the school district once again, and Mr. Chandler, just, everyone that's been a part of our program.
It's awesome to hear how fast they are, but it's even more awesome to hear how respectful and honorable they are. So congratulations also to the parents. Great job.
Now, David Ward is going to make his annual appearance here, talk about the History Museum.
Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate you extending the high school rep program for a third year. We've got another great team. I tell you, every year it's just like each team gets a little bit better and better. I appreciate that. And I wanted to share that one initiative that we're also doing, they're going to talk about the Memory Meal of Fort Mill that'll be coming up in November. It'll be held at the Nation Ford High School Auditorium on November the 7th. But they're going to give a little bit more detail of each one of them. But another initiative that we took on was to actually interview them, each of the three reps, as part of our, what we call our town videos. We always have interviewed a lot of what I call old folks, and since I'm an old folk, I can fit right in there. So we've interviewed a lot of old folks, but it's been great to get to interview some of the younger folks and ask them questions like, things like, how did COVID impact your life, and just different things to get that kind of a perspective. So I just wanted to share that with you. Let me introduce the class of 2024 Fort Mill Board High School reps. There's Charlie Duda with Fort Mill High, then Lydia McCarter with Catawba Ridge, and then Lila Scoffrin with Nation Ford. And so what I was going to do is each of the, and again, this is the second season of the Memory Meal of Fort Mill. Last year we had a great time with that. Looking forward to the event this year. It was very engaging, and the one thing that I wanted to mention, we always have a charity of choice that we always have, so that we can kind of give back to the community as well. Well, this year's charity of choice is the Classroom Ready. So we're going to have Classroom Ready to be there to be able to take donations and stuff like that. So we're doing that. Let me give it to Charlie Duda, is going to talk about the History Bowl competition and then the media competition right quick. Thank you.
Hello. So two things. The first one is the History Bowl. That's like the big competition on the 7th. That's what everyone kind of works up to. So each school will have teams of 4, one person from each grade level, and they'll be asked questions about like Fort Mill history and things like that. So they're studying beforehand. The coaches will get information, and then the coaches will kind of coach them up on different things that they should be looking into. But mainly it's the students looking and trying to come up with like the information that will be on that they'll be asked. Catawba Ridge won last year, so they got a trophy with their name on it, and so that trophy will be reused this year for the new winner, hopefully Fort Mill. It should be. And so we also ask audience participation questions, so the audience will be pulled into it as well. And then the second thing is one of the 3 competitions that we have before. They'll talk about the other 2, but I'll talk about the photography competition. So students that are like into photography will tell the photography classes at the different schools. They'll be able to go and they'll have to do some research, but they can go out and submit a picture of something in Fort Mill history, something that's important to them or important to Fort Mill, and then all the finalists' photographs will be displayed at our event on the 7th. So that's mine. Next is Lydia.
Good evening. The art competition is a way for high school students to create pieces of art that reflect Fort Mill history. Students are able to explore and demonstrate an understanding of our local history, and the artwork can be made of any medium. All the artwork will be submitted and then collected by their individual high school representative. Finally, our finalists will be on display at our event on November 7th. And now Lila will be speaking.
Hello. So I'm working with the literature part of the competition for the memory mill. And so we basically will take any types of essays, poems, or short stories that feature people, places, or events from Fort Mill, whether it's important to them or just an important part of history. And so those will be given to the teachers who are kind of helping us out with that, and then we'll take them. I'm pretty sure they'll be at the memory mill as well, and then the prize will be awarded to the best picked literary piece and fan favorite.
So again, thank you guys. Be sure, Wayne, Chuck, be sure to tell both your friends to join us on November the 7th, so we can have a great time. And I really appreciate you guys helping us out and everything. Look forward to seeing y'all. Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Had to miss it last year, so I'm looking forward to it this year. We have got minutes from the last meeting on August the 13th. Were there any adjustments or corrections?
I think on item 10, it said that Dr. Federoli seconded. I don't know if this matters, but
Okay,
he wasn't here.
that would be,
I was here in spirit. So,
all right, let me get,
He's usually the seconder.
yes.
And
His
I
backup
actually don't-
seconder too, and I was out.
I don't recall, maybe I seconded it. It was like 9:45 at night, so if I did, I was asleep, but
okay, we will get that corrected. We can always go back and listen and see
Yeah.
whose voice it was, so, all right. Then with that adjustment, anything else? All right, those will stand as approved with that amendment. Do we have any public participation this evening? Okay, we've got several exciting staff reports, so we'll jump right in. The first one is about our energy management program. Jerome, are you gonna kick it off?
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you. Did learn something tonight that Gray was always telling me he was the fastest guy in your county. So I was surprised.
Apparently not.
That was in his car. In the car, okay. That was, I appreciate it. Anyway, tonight we're excited. We have Schneider Electric here. We have two folks in the crowd that are going to come up and speak. They've completed their audit that we've been speaking about over the last couple of months. From this audit, we'll go ahead and look at a contract with them. That will be the basis for the contract. So there's a lot of exciting things in there. Ask questions as they go along because there's a lot of information in there that you might have some questions about. But I'm going to let them get right to it. Again, this is Justin Shutt, and we have Ashley Hyatt, the brains of the operation. And they'll present and, as I said, ask questions, right?
Absolutely.
As they go along. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Need your notes. Good evening, Dr. Epps, members of the board and administration. Thank you all for giving us the opportunity to be here today. We are very excited to discuss the update of where we're at with a project that is a district-wide infrastructure solution we feel is going to be very impactful, as you can see. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. My name is Justin Shutt on behalf of Schneider Electric, here with Ashley Hyatt, who is the project development engineer. We will be diving into a lot of details here. Joe loves to remind me that Ashley is the brains of the operation, so if you all do have any in-depth questions or want to dive into the weeds on any of these specific scope items, please feel free to ask. So we'll just go over a quick program overview here. If you remember, a few months back, I came in and gave an update. It was about 50% of the way through the project development. So I'll just give you a quick reminder on what the project is and the goals of the program. We'll talk through our analysis and recommendations for solutions, talk through the financial impact, and then the next steps as far as where we are at now. So just briefly looking at the goals of this program, first and foremost, our goal is to help you all reduce your utility consumption. The way we do that is by implementing modernized technology and infrastructure solutions to help you lower your utility consumption and in turn drive a return on investment associated with those various efficiencies. And then there's also a number of different solutions associated with this overall project that bring that project to life and really help with community and student engagement, public relations, those types of things. So excited to tell you about that towards the end of the presentation as well. So we'll go ahead and jump right into the overview, the financial impact of what we're talking about, just so you can get a good understanding of the magnitude of the project that we're talking about. First and foremost, the solutions that you'll see here comprehensively will drive down your utility consumption by 17%. In turn, what that does is guarantee you an annual return on your investment of $836,000 every year for the duration of that 20-year guarantee. When you extrapolate that out over the term of the guarantee, we're looking at close to $22.5 million returned back to the school district. So that's where you're able to really leverage those funds on the front end for the implementation of those infrastructure modernizations. And I'll go ahead and talk through how we are going to achieve those savings here. Ashley and his team have been combing through your facilities for close to a year now, getting literally every nut and bolt and making sure that we've identified all of the different various solutions that will help you drive those savings. And here is a big picture overview of what it is that we're talking about. So you can see this was strategically set up as a two-phase project. For the purposes of the conversation tonight, we're only talking about phase one, but just wanted you to be able to see the big picture on where we intend on going. The green squares with the check marks, that's where you'll see the scope that is proposed for phase one. The blue squares are scope that's proposed for phase two, so that's a future discussion. But the reason that this was strategically set up this way is so that the district can leverage a tax incentive associated with a federal government program. It's called the IRA. It's the Inflation Reduction Act. And the specific program is called 179D. And you all, it's a financial strategy that we're able to help you all take advantage of. You all are tax exempt, so you're not able to take a deduction on your taxes. So the way it'll work on phase two is the district signs that tax benefit over to Schneider Electric, and Schneider Electric returns the benefit in the form of a discount on the phase two scope. So that's how you're able to leverage a deduction that it's your right to take that deduction, you just don't have a way to do it because you're a public school district. So we get a little bit creative. I wouldn't say a loophole, it's not a loophole, it's just a financial strategy to give you the benefit that you deserve that is associated with the energy efficient equipment that we're installing on that phase one project. So at this point, I'll go ahead and walk through the individual scope items and try to do it as quickly as possible without putting anybody to sleep. But again, please do ask me if you do have any questions. You can see on the bottom there, anywhere that there is a school that is in green, highlighted in green, that's where this scope applies. So first and foremost, we're talking about the building automation system. This is actually the highest energy conservation solution that we have in this entire project. What we're going to do is basically help you all standardize on the existing platform that you have currently. So we do that at most of the schools there by retro commissioning the existing system. So we're going to dive deep into those systems and comb through and make sure that everything that the front end says is being controlled is in fact being controlled. It's very common for small little sensors to fail or dampers to be stuck shut. So we're going through and making sure that the controls associated with your HVAC equipment are operating the way that they're supposed to be operating. In addition to that, at 2 of the sites, we're just doing a full brand new automation system, again, to that Honeywell platform. That's at Fort Mill High School and Banks Trail Middle School. They're getting a full replacement of their automation solution. And when this is all done, your operations team is going to be able to have a single login where they can control the entire district, basically making that, all of the schedules, basically a smart school district from a HVAC standpoint. Any questions on this one? Okay.
I got one.
Sure.
As far as like that loophole you were telling us, I imagine we've kind of done the due diligence.
It's a financial strategy.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I've imagined we're not gonna. I just don't want to be bit on the back end of that.
No, so at a district in Columbia, we leveraged this exact same thing. We were able to get them a $1.6 million deduction. There's actually a third-party tax auditor that comes in, and they have to see the equipment installed in order to help you file the appropriate paperwork. So we're filing the taxes on our corporate, tax deduction, tax return every year. And then our books are actually held open for 5 years because we're a corporation. So we're carrying some risk by doing that. So we feel very confident that ultimately you all will see the benefit associated with that.
Thank you.
And that was a school district or a school?
It was Richland School District 1. Yep. That was, and again, it was associated with the equipment that was previously installed on a previous phase.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so next up, we've got the interior lighting, and that is an LED conversion. So it's a retrofit to all LED lights in the classroom. This is a huge aesthetic benefit. It's flat panel LED door kits. You can see on the bottom there exactly what that's going to look like. And basically standardizing the light fixtures across all of those sites that you see there. The 4 sites that are not highlighted already had LED lights, so we didn't include pulling those out and putting new ones in. But this makes a significant impact from a maintenance standpoint because you're eliminating ballasts, which are associated with fluorescent lights, so that's a huge maintenance issue. And then you're just eliminating these bulbs that have a significantly less burn hours associated with them. So we're talking about really like a 20-plus year solution from a lighting standpoint. And they come with a 10-year product warranty. So you don't have to worry about a thing for 10 years, but based on the runtime associated with school districts being off in summer and such, we predict this will be a 20-year light solution where your maintenance and operations staff can not worry about chasing around burnout bulbs and they can focus on more important things. Next up, we've got the exterior solution. So basically the same thing there, just identifying areas that there were not LEDs existing. This is a really great aesthetic benefit as well from the exterior. It gives the schools really good curb appeal when everything is clean, consistent, bright white. But also from a security standpoint, you've got a really good benefit there as well because these are a lot brighter and can really help illuminating some of those dark areas. And the burn time, again, you won't have to worry about a light burning out and nobody noticing it because it's projected to last for such a long time. Next up, we've got a really exciting solution. So this is a sports lighting retrofit. The first one you can see, we have slated some of these fields for the Phase 2 project, but the Phase 1 project was associated with the 4 highest priority or the largest campuses that you all have. So we're talking about 23 fields of retrofits. 2 of which at Fort Mill High School, we're converting wood poles, existing wood poles to actual steel poles. So this is a solution that is going to make a big difference in aligning with the beautiful athletic facilities that you have now and really broadcasting, the Fort Mill athletic facilities the way that we feel that they should be. So make a great benefit from that standpoint. Jumping over to this next page, one of the biggest things is, first and foremost, this is an engineered solution from a sports lighting standpoint. So the light levels at the playing surface are guaranteed. And the biggest thing here is that there's a 25-year warranty on parts and labor associated with this. So you will never have to hire a lift to come and change bulbs ever again. You don't have to source the equipment and change that for the next 25 years. This is basically a hands-off solution. A really great lighting solution, something that we're also installing at some other districts around the state right now and throughout the Southeast. So just a great overall controllability of these lights. They don't take a long time to warm up. If somebody forgets to schedule a practice, they can just go on to the web platform and schedule that lights, and boom, the lights come on with the flip of a switch. So great solution here and really exciting to broadcast those beautiful facilities that you do have. Any questions on this one?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
If we do have any issues, if anybody in here has ever had to deal with a warranty company, it can be real annoying.
Yeah.
Are we going to have the flexibility here to kind of hire out whoever we want and send that invoice in? How does that process work?
So first off, Schneider will handle any warranties on any of this equipment on your behalf. But if you did want to take the warranty, actually, do you know the answer to that?
We would work with Musco to handle that
So
warranty?
Musco Lighting Solutions. So Musco would be the rep. They're the manufacturer of the equipment, so they're the ones that are certified to take care of any maintenance issues.
Good turnaround time?
Absolutely.
Yes, so the important thing is 24/7.
Oh yeah, 24/7 support. So they'll come out on the drop of a hat.
Like if there's an issue or anything you guys have, you can, it's 24/7. Number you can call and get support, you know, if it's immediate.
Okay.
And they're local? The reps that would come out would be local?
Yeah, Musco's nationwide, but the particular
they got
rep that we're working with is out of, I want to say Columbia. Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
not exactly local.
Yep.
Okay, that was part of my question. I mean, driving up from Columbia is not a quick solution.
Right.
Yeah, but the thing is, in the past, with the halide lights that we've been using,
Yes?
it's taking weeks at a time sometimes to
Right.
replace 1 and 2 bulbs.
Yep.
It's hard to find folks that will go on those lifts.
Yeah, an hour and a half is quicker than a week.
Right.
And in most cases, they've got the control link software that is all, it's all internet based. So they have the ability to log in and diagnose what's going on before, it's not like they have to roll up on site and then start figuring out what's going on. They can really see and diagnose a lot of the issues before they ever arrive on site.
Yeah, so I noticed, so Catawba Ridge is what, we're 5 years or so being open. So I noticed it being on a project list. So why something like athletic lights needed for?
I don't know why there weren't athletic lights. I would imagine it has to do with the cost. I mean, the technology and the efficiency associated with these lights has been on really, it's been on a very dramatic scale where the costs are coming down and the efficiencies continue to rise. So I don't know what that decision was. I would assume that was the
Back
case.
when we were designing the school 7, 8 years ago, it wasn't appropriate to use that type of lighting as far as cost wise.
Wasn't cost effective.
It was
Okay.
Yeah, Justin just mentioned the prices have finally come down, which gives us the ability to do all of this for the interior or exterior.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And as a reminder, we've got people listening in, so you guys make sure you talk to a microphone if you're answering questions, if you could. Thank you.
Will do. Okay, water conservation. This is obviously not energy, it's water, but we did analyze, close to 2,000 fixtures that were surveyed and found anywhere and everywhere that we could impact, whether it's a faucet or any of the facilities within the restrooms. A lot of this is the diaphragm kits, so some of it is not replacing physical pieces of china. Some of it is just going in and changing the diaphragm kit, which may be overflowing the toilet higher than what it is required, than what it calls for. So it's changing out the plumbing inside of that flush valve. Some of them are changing actual toilets. You can see there's 46 toilets that will be replaced across various sites. So that is, just a great upgrade to the restroom facilities as well.
So what is the rationale for the 3 schools that aren't in scope for this?
You want to step up? Yeah.
Right, because one of the previous slides with lighting, I think it was all of the newest schools I noticed were on that list.
Yeah.
But this is a little bit different.
Yeah, so most of this is related to, so we go in, do an audit, do a water flow test of all the urinals, toilets, sinks, et cetera. And most of the 3 facilities that you see on here, their flow rates were just low enough that we couldn't find any opportunity there for them. So,
And we do an analysis as well. If the flow rates are low like that, the last thing we want to do is create some larger plumbing issue by changing to a more efficient situation. So we need to make sure it's the right environment with the pressure and the different flow rates associated with that as well.
Talk about sinks for a minute, because I believe some of our sinks are a little bit dated. And I'm assuming that the way this works is it's one of those where you press it and it only runs for a certain amount of time?
It's actually not. We're not changing a lot of there are some fixed, like actual new faucets that will be replaced, but most of this is the aerators within that faucet. So it's just changing the flow that they output. It's like more of a stream that comes out that, you can wash under. It uses less gallons per minute.
But it doesn't shut off after X number of seconds. It just keeps running until the person turns it off.
It just depends on, what fixture is there currently. So most cases, we're not changing the actual fixture, it's just
I was
upgrading the
excited thinking
efficiency.
we were gonna have new sinks in some,
Yeah.
in some of our older ones.
Maybe in phase 2.
Okay.
Okay, weatherization. This is something that a lot of people don't think about, but honestly makes a huge impact from a facility, an occupant comfort standpoint within the facility. So we are looking at basically sealing the entire envelope of the building. Any penetrations or gaps in the building, whether it be a pipe going in from the outside to the inside, we'll be caulking around the windows, weather stripping around 635 doors, including the door sweeps underneath. 40,000 linear feet of ceiling between the roofs and the walls. That's almost 8 miles of ceiling around the where the roof meets the wall seam. Again, just a really big impact on the way that the building operates and the pressurization of the building. You might not think that these small cracks make a big impact, but when you add them all up, it's equivalent of leaving garage doors, bays wide open all the time. So they all do definitely add up when you're talking about every single one individually.
First up, I appreciate the Steelers picture. Second,
Did that for you, yeah.
I appreciate that. Go Steelers. With that being said, are we performing some of this work like or is this all contracted out? Okay, so our maintenance crew is not going to be encumbered by. Okay.
Our goal is to put your our goal is to put your maintenance team in a proactive position. We'll tackle all of this stuff so that they can focus on, the maintaining and the more important things moving forward.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, next up, we've got windows. So we are also replacing 60 aging windows at the R wing of Fort Mill High School. So that's going to align with the rest of the building. R wing is kind of that standalone part of the building. So it's going to align with the rest of the black aluminum framed metal windows there. Double paned, very efficient windows with the same design with the blinds on the inside of the panes of glass. So that's just a great aesthetic and energy upgrade there. Something that is, all of this project, or most of it that's required, is going to be OSF approved, engineered, stamped, and submitted through OSF as well. So we're doing all of this stuff per the code. Electrical infrastructure, this is something else that a lot of people don't think about, but it is really a core component of your electrical grid within your facilities. We're replacing 88 inefficient step-down transformers across the district. These are, if you've ever opened a maintenance closet and seen it in there, you can literally feel and hear the energy loss. They have a loud hum to them, and the room is very hot. So replacing and there's also usually a lot of IT equipment in there that doesn't do well in a hot environment. So replacing that metal step-down transformer with a very efficient new unit that has a 32-year warranty on the new units, something that is just really peace of mind for the long-term reliability of your electrical infrastructure at these facilities, and makes a big impact from an energy efficiency standpoint here. So that's everything for phase 1. Looking at the phase 2, just really quick, wanted to touch on that. We project that 179D deduction, again, to be about $1.5 million that you can then apply towards the phase 2 scope. We haven't specifically designed the phase 2 scope, but we've earmarked a couple of pieces of scope items, including the rest of the sports lighting. Potentially Banks Trail Middle School will be on schedule for an HVAC refresh right around that time. And then also evaluating other energy conservation measures in this building, the maintenance and the transportation buildings as well. So some other opportunities that we'll evaluate as we get to that phase 2 part of the project, and then you have the significant deduction to be able to apply to that. Also, another thing about that deduction is we had to specifically plan for that and strategize for that because it requires an apprenticeship program and prevailing wages on certain scope items that will benefit for that deduction. So we had to get strategic on what we were going to apply for and making sure that that return is going to be worth the effort of being eligible for it. On the back end of our construction project, we've got a client services team to help support you all and make sure that you're tracking with the guarantees, realizing the energy savings that we promised, and are able to maintain this new equipment. So we do have 24/7 support, can maintain those warranties as we were discussing. You've got access to the same reporting software that we use to guarantee. So your energy management staff will be able to analyze data and react to certain energy trends at your facilities. So just a ton of really valuable information at your fingertips associated with this project, and pulling all of your, I think there's 117 energy meters that will be pulled into this front end. So you'll be able to see in real time what your energy trends are doing at any given time. If there's a school that's spiking in June and there's nobody in that school, you can immediately see something's going on. You'll get an alert and try and diagnose what's happening, as will our team, but you've got the same information at your fingertips. And then also remote monitoring for your building automation, having the benefit of that being in one single place as well is going to be great for your facilities and operations team.
I have a question about tracking the savings. I assume you have to use some kind of a metric other than cost, because the rates are going to be adjusted over time,
That's right.
right? So you're using MIPS or BIPS or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah. We're using the actual energy kilowatt hours is where our guarantee is tracked.
Okay.
So we're not factoring in cost. It's cost associated with the units of energy that you're saving. Same with water.
Okay.
Is there like a monthly ongoing subscription to continue up with the application here?
With the capital, so we build 2 years of support into the project.
Okay.
After that, it's annually renewable. So what we see is a lot of times people will scale that back because they don't need as much support because they're comfortable with the new equipment. They know how to operate the systems. They know how to work the software. So they'll scale that back. They don't necessarily need as much on-site support, but we do build in on-site trainings and on-site visits at the beginning of this in the first 2 years. And then after that, it is an annually renewable service. You can either ramp that up. So for example, if there was some significant turnover, you lost, somebody retired in the district that was previously managing the facilities or the operations or the energy, you could ramp it up at that time and know that our team has the knowledge and the insight, the know-how of your facilities to help you through that transition. And then maybe that next person gets the training and understands how to manage the facilities efficiently, and they can back that off the following year.
What would be that monthly cost?
It's in the contract. I honestly don't have it on the top of my head, but I can definitely I've sent the contract over to the district, so that is available right now. I can double check that for you, but I don't want to give you the wrong information right now. Okay. This is a piece that we're really excited about. We've actually worked with your communications team as well as our internal communications team, as well as several members of the district. I think I might give Steve a little credit for the Fort Mill for the future. It was a nice mic drop tagline, and we all rallied around it, thought it was a great saying, and built this beautiful brand. Our marketing team sent over some mock-ups, and we'll give some additional credit to Mr. Burke in the back of the room, who custom tailored and tweaked the design a little bit, and this was the polished product that we plan on branding for communications associated with this project. There are a number of different initiatives that we can leverage with our marketing team and our engagement teams. You can utilize this for some social media content, some website updates, progress updates on the installation savings achieved to date. We have celebrations like, you save your first $1 million. We can come to a board meeting and present the first $1 million saved, different things like that. So a lot of just things to make a good news story about this initiative. Also some student engagement opportunities down the line as well. October is Energy Awareness Month. We've got Earth Day coming up. So we like to engage some of the students and have, we've done little solar cars or solar butterflies. We've done tree plantings with elementary school students. So just to try to get them to understand a little bit more about the importance of efficiency and sustainability as a whole from a big picture. Always good to spread a good news message as a school district. All right, we'll talk about the financial impact here. You've already seen this. Huge impact to your bottom line, massive savings, really fantastic project overall. Leveraging a number of different funding options. 179D, we discussed that. There's also a component of utility rebates. We have a rebate team that will go ahead and file those on your behalf, and it has nothing to do with the cost that we've proposed to this project thus far, which is on the next slide. But we will go ahead and get those, any rebates, grants, incentives that are available to help you reduce the impact that you all see. We'll go ahead and do that on your behalf. And here is the overall project value. So the total project cost is $30 million, just over $30 million. The guaranteed savings coming in at just under 22.5 million in total. So this is an out-of-pocket impact of about $7.5 million for you to go ahead and achieve over $30 million of infrastructure improvements. And I know that we always are conservative on our numbers, so we actually project this project to achieve over $25 million in savings, but that guarantees at $22.5 million. So really impactful project. You can see just very ballpark on the phase 2 piece. We don't know exactly how that's going to shake out, but just high level right now, looking at some of the things that we had proposed. But again, $7.5 million delta there between the guarantee and the overall savings for a $30 million project is a really solid solution. And I know that Leanne has been working with her financial team to make things happen, and I don't want to get in her way of doing things. So if you have any specific questions on that, I'm sure she's happy to answer them.
Any other questions?
I'm just curious, this is a huge project.
It is.
Looks like it's gonna touch almost every single building
That's right.
that we have. How or when does it happen, and how much will it affect instruction time?
Sure, yeah. The when is a perfect lead into the next step here, so thank you for that. We will start mobilizing our construction team as soon as we have project approval. There is a fairly significant mobilization period because we've got to order equipment, we've got to get our teams lined up, but everybody is geared up and ready to go right now. This is projected to be probably about a 2-year construction project, so it's pretty significant. A lot of the really large infrastructure stuff will happen over the summers, but we also primarily work in K-12 school districts, so our teams are very good at coming in at the night. They work the night shift, weekends, holidays, and make sure that, you know, it doesn't look like anybody was ever in the classroom except there's new infrastructure in there. So their goal is to make it feel like no one was ever there, but you've got better things in the morning when you come in.
That is exactly what I wanted.
How long you been in the industry?
So I actually used to work for the state energy office in 2010. So about since then, I saw these contracts from the other side of the fence back then, and then joined on with Schneider in 2014, and I've been in South Carolina in this position since 2016.
Gotcha. What about Ashley?
Ashley's got a list of experience here.
So I've been a mechanical engineer for pretty close to 25 years. Been in performance contracting for close to 15 years now. Done projects all over the world, from federal military institutions, schools, colleges, hospitals.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I think that's, oh, and then this is just a kind of a summary slide, so I'm happy to, absolutely. Yep.
Thanks, Justin. Sure. Just to kind of give you an idea of where we are with the plan right now, as Justin said, we've been working very closely with Mike Gallagher with Company's Municipal Advisors. They have also worked with several of Schneider Electric's other clients on these projects. But just to give you kind of a quick recap, in fiscal year in 2022, 2023, you allocated 1.8 million at the end of the year to start kind of planning towards doing this project. And so we set that aside. Then in the most recent bond referendum that was passed, we had $10 million to put towards this project. So we have a total of $11.8 million to put towards this. We are planning to issue, we have gotten the projected cash flow needs from Snyder Electric for the next 2-year period, and based on that, we are planning to issue the debt on the $10 million from the bond referendum this spring. And then we would not issue any additional debt until this time next year. But it would be a special obligation bond, which is different than a general obligation bond. This would all be issued at one point in time. It would be for a 20-year payback based on this plan. It would be set up with a trustee to make the bond payments. It would not go through our normal debt service fund at York County. This would be separate. And then each year, based on the savings, we would be remitting payment to the trustee who would then make the bond payments. We would more than likely set these bonds up on a potential call at 10 years, meaning at that time we could refinance. We could also look at defeasing the bonds if we have set aside any additional funding, like sometimes we do at year end, that we want to put towards this. That would then give us the opportunity to do that as well. So that is our plan right now. We would have these set up more than likely for a June payment every year. That way we could be at the end of our fiscal year. We could be working with Snyder. We could see our savings numbers at that time. But that is generally how we would fund phase 1 of this project. Any questions for me? Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very exciting.
All good?
Sorry.
That's okay.
I was saying,
We're good.
you got back up, so I thought there might be more.
Nope, just.
All right.
Not up.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing the progress beginning. Ms. Lordy, you sat back down is what confused me. Okay.
Justin's thunder if he was going to
Okay.
finish.
All right.
So tonight's probably the easiest monthly financial report that I give. It's the first month of the fiscal year. I hope we still have funds in all the schools and the departments, but I'm very excited tonight to share with you a new project that I have been working on, an enhancement to your monthly financial report. And I believe you got that this afternoon. We have been working on the final tweaks, but I certainly wanted to share that with you tonight. I am very happy to let you know that this was an internal project. Jonathan Bradstreet, who's one of our computer tech engineers, designed this for you and worked with me on it. And so it's really, I think, very rewarding that we did this internally. And my plan would be to use this format for you now monthly. I was looking more for a dashboard approach, a quick glance, some summary numbers. And I'm thinking I'll probably still do the full with all the general ledger accounts, the detail, and send that to you maybe quarterly. And that'll give you all the year-to-date numbers. But I wanted to show this to you, what it looks like. I'm certainly open to any comments, suggestions. Jonathan and I can tweak this and improve it if you have other things you would like to see. But I think this is a great quick glance. This first page would show you the monthly revenue. And at the top, our plan is to show you the categories like we discussed, the state revenue, local revenue, and intergovernmental. We're thinking we're always going to put them in the order of highest to lowest. So certainly in July, we're not receiving a lot of tax revenue. Our state revenue is our largest contributor for July, so that comes first. And then in the middle section, our graphs will show the year-to-date revenue. And then you can see the detail on the bottom that ties into the detail that you've been receiving prior to this new format. And then the same with expenditures. The top section would be a quick glance at the expenditures. And as we always like to reiterate, salaries and benefits, I can pretty much guarantee that's always going to be in the top left because that's our largest expenditure. And then we will go across, we will show the year-to-date in the middle, and then the detail at the bottom. So I hope this will be helpful for you and more of a visual approach for the financials going forward. But I am certainly open as you review those. Please share any comments or anything you would like to see change. But as far as July, that's the first month of the new fiscal year. Total revenues, you can see were $10,624,000, expenditures $6,470,000. So we had an increase to fund balance of $4.1 million. One of the interesting things in July, and I truly looked at this 3 times because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But you know I like to report out on vehicle tax collections. I don't think you would believe this, but the vehicle tax collections for July were $2.2 million. That's the high. That is a record high for us. You know, we have been tracking 1.4 to 1.6 million, 2.2 million for July. I don't know if that trend will continue or not, or just a lot of vehicles have a tag renewal for July.
I received my bill.
You
I
okay?
I shared my
You
very large
contributed.
part of it. So I have to say I'm not surprised, given
Okay.
the size of the bill. And I've heard several other people comment on the size of their bills, so sadly, I'm not shocked by the number.
Any questions about July? Or I'll move on to,
Yes.
yes, okay?
Last meeting, I think I asked you about the interest on investments, and you kind of shared with the public what that is. But what I would like for you to do this evening is share with the public, what do we do with it? So I'm looking at $305,692
Yes.
versus $270K. Can you articulate that?
Sure, and thank you for reminding me, Mr. Beatty. I wanted to mention that. That was we are continuing to see that high trend in interest rates. Our funds are primarily invested with the South Carolina Local Government Investment Pool with the state of South Carolina, and those rates have stayed over 5%. And actually for July, they were 5.5%.
Wow.
So if you look, you'll see that we budgeted $750,000. So we are well on our way to exceeding the budgeted amount for interest investment income if that continues this year. That would be fantastic. So very pleased to see the interest earnings continue to come in with, we call it the LGIP, the Local Government Investment Pool.
Thank you.
And rates may come down.
Rates
from
may
what we
come
hear.
down.
So it's a
So
little
it's
bit of
great
a-
to have a positive, very strong start
Especially
on
at the
interest
beginning,
earnings
yep.
for this year.
Yep.
And also, I still have not received the final state allocations. I think I reported to you last month that the state will reallocate the final state budget based on the 5-day enrollment numbers for charter schools, which affects the total allocation statewide. We still have not received that.
But ours is
So-
based on the 180th day from last year?
Ours is based on the 135th day from last
Okay.
year, but it's based on the state budget as it stands, but without the final charter school allocations. So we're still waiting on that number.
And then it will be adjusted again.
And then it will be adjusted again at the 45th day, and then the 100,
45th day of charter schools as well?
yes,
So they sync back up
they sync back
on
up.
the 45th and the 135th going forward?
That's my understanding. Yes.
Okay.
So we will continue to watch and see how that new formula works out. Impact fees, to date, we have collected $68.5 million. We are continuing to draw down from the county on construction of Flint Hill Elementary and a smaller amount on Flint Hill Middle School. But we have collected on single-family units, 2,662 units, and multifamily, 1,679, for a total of 4,341 units. In August, we had 17 homes permitted. You may have seen that on the monthly report. We did not have any multifamily or apartments permitted in August. And our comparable data is still in the same range, about 14% more on homes and about 70% less on apartments, because we're not seeing as many new apartment complexes. But our August actual collections were $308,000 in impact fees. So we're still seeing the stream of funding coming in on impact fees. Two other things I wanted to mention. We did have a bond sale on August 28th. It was for $15.6 million. We had 5 bidders, and Wells Fargo was the low bidder at 3.108 interest rate. That bond sale included our annual installment purchase plan payments, our equipment acquisition payments. Those total about $5.3 million. We went ahead and issued $5 million of technology funding that is in the new referendum money. We issued $3 million for district-wide paving projects that we've worked on this summer that was in the new referendum, and $2 million for completion of some roof replacement projects that we've been working on. So that total $15.6 million that was issued. So we were very pleased with the sale, with the bidders, and with the interest rate we received on August 28th. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, you often ask about the fee and lieu reporting that we have to do for the audit. I did receive the final spreadsheet from the county that will be in our audit, but the total amount of, we call it lost revenue, which is the difference between what we would have received if these businesses, commercial businesses, did not have a fee and lieu agreement with the county and they were paying the full amount. The total lost revenue for last fiscal year was $12,719,000 that we lost. And that'll be reported in our audit report. But you often ask about that, so I wanted to share that with you.
How many meals does that translate into?
Divide that by about 375,000.
So 35.
I cannot do that in my head,
Yeah.
but
About 36 mils. give or take.
36 mills,
Huge impact on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Small businesses
yes.
in Carson.
Leanne, when you were talking about the impact fee, you mentioned we're up to 4,500-ish units that have been built. And I remember several years ago, you know, we were looking at the future and we had give or take 10,000 on the horizon, and we're not quite, but almost halfway there. And I don't remember, that was like a 10-year span, and I don't know how many years we are into that. When, and this might be a question for you if you know, when do we see an updated, it's not really the 10-year facilities study, but as much as it is the projected, because I don't know, I haven't kept close ties on whether or not new developments have been approved or where we stand on any of that.
Yeah. So we're starting to gather that data.
Okay.
Because we have entered into, now that York County has passed the resolution to direct the York County Planning Commission to engage in a new comprehensive impact fee study for Fort Mill School District. We have now engaged Tischler Weiss that completed our study in 2017-18. And so we have started the process with Tischler Weiss, and we will now start gathering all that data, such as the 10-year student projections, the updated enrollment, the construction costs, and working with the various planning groups on the permitting with Catawba Regional. And we'll be compiling all that data to send to Tischler Weiss over the next 30 days.
In fact, we met with Dr. Holden today, Marty and I and Gray, and he's already working on the 10-year out projections. We met about the number of classrooms that we'll need to shift teachers in to open up the new elementary and the new middle. But he's working on both projects, so that's part of the requirement that Carson Tischler Weiss needs his numbers.
Yes.
Good timing.
So very soon, we can report out on some of these numbers.
Yeah, I'm just curious, are we halfway to 10,000 or is it now 12 or 13,000? You know?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on the monthly report? Okay, thank you.
All right, then we're gonna shift gears and talk about academics and some very exciting test scores. Dr. Wakesmith?
Yes, good evening. So we're going to talk a little bit about the recently released test scores this evening. You received some of the data in a previous email, but tonight we will go over some of the highlights, and we have lots of highlights. Much of this information will be on the state report cards that we get for our schools and our district. That does not come out until October 10th. But most of the test scores are released. We just don't know our ratings and how many points we'll earn for each of those. So we'll be back again in mid-October to talk about the report card. So tonight will be an update on our test scores and where we stand in relation to most other districts. So tonight, I'm going to get started by saying truly this is a celebration of all the hard work of our teachers, our principals, our school staff, our parents and community for putting such an importance on education. So we have lots to be happy about, and we're going to go through some of those. So I'm going to have Matt and Renee help me. They're going to go over some of the details, and then I'll be back up to finish it off and answer any questions you may have. So Matt's going to be up first.
Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. This first slide, and we'll move along here, is going to be our SE Ready ELA data. This is the percentage of students that are in the meets or exceeds category on SE Ready from really the past 4 years, pre or post-pandemic. You can see that we had that drop off in 2021 with a 67.4%, and then a big increase from 2022, really 21 to 23. We had a really large increase. Almost 10% of our students were meeting proficiency more than what we had in 2021. Did kind of level off a little bit in 2024 with 76.9%, but we're hoping, you know, this data that you see here is possibly going to change a little bit with final calculations on the state report card data. So it's actually trending a little bit higher when they factor in some of our students that are going to be excluded from the denominator in some of these calculations. So we might be closer to 77.6 when all said and done. But again, kind of leveling off there in ELA. And then moving on to SU Ready math data, you can see again, our trend line is going up from 2021 to 2024 after that drop off from being out of school in 2020. We did have a small increase this year, up 0.2 of a percentage point with our proficiency up to 67.9% for math. Again, this is an area that really everyone across the state struggled in. We weren't immune to the drop off in math, and we're just kind of trying to make our way back, scratching and clawing, trying to make our way back to pre-pandemic levels. SU Ready science data was very minimal this year. The states released new standards, and last year was the first year of implementation. So we really don't have a lot of science data to share with you tonight. And actually, it's not going to be even factored into calculations on the state report card either. Those points will be shifted over to ELA and math and then student progress. So we didn't receive individual score reports. Parents did not receive those reports this year, and we really didn't receive a breakdown at all of any student level data from the state for science. We did receive some average scores in grade 4 and grade 6. Those are the tested grades. And those mean scores, we were at 9.9 points above the state average in grade 4 and 14.4 points above the state average in grade 6. So again, we're continuing the trend of being well above the state average in not just ELA and math, but science. And you can continue to see that trend in this slide as we break everything down by grade level. So at the top, in that table, you'll see the ELA scores from 3rd through 8th grade. This is really great to see because we did get a shout out from the State Department on their press release on SE Ready. We actually met the 75% proficiency goal that the state has set forth for really all levels of state testing in grades 4 through 8 on SE Ready ELA. And we're really close, only 1.5 percentage points away in ELA for 3rd grade. But you can see we're well above the state average, and really, I think almost all grade levels here on this screen are #1 in the state when we looked at some data across the entire state. Math, again, we surpassed the proficiency goal set forth by the state of 75% in 3rd grade math, but then we fell a little bit off, and you can see the state average goes down as the grade level moves forth, and we also do that as well. But you can see that we're still maintaining that average well above the state mark. And again, number one in the state in just about all grade levels here. Yeah, so we were talking just recently about how third grade really was the group, and really fourth grade, they didn't have a lot of impact from COVID. Their learning loss might not have been as impactful as you can see in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And again, that's across the state where you see that kind of dip as you go up in grade levels. So we're thinking that some of the gaps that were caused by the COVID shutdown in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are still kind of rearing their ugly head here. So we're trying to kind of ramp up our game in math. You can see ELA scores have kind of shot back up, or math, we're still trying to work on that. And Renee is going to come up to talk about some high school data.
Okay, so moving on from 3rd through 8th grade, we're going to look at our end of course data. And this is the percentage of students scoring a C or higher on the EOC exam. And you can see that we definitely far exceed the state average in each one of our tests. And we did get a shout out on this also from the state, because we did meet the 75% goal that the state had in biology and history, and far exceeded it in English. But if we look on down to math, it is falling a little bit short, but we do want to let you know that we do have supports in place this year for Algebra 1. Yashika Latimer, who is our secondary math coordinator, is working closely with our high school Algebra 1 PLT groups, and she has also put in place an Algebra 1 boot camp for fall and spring, and is working with every single Algebra 1 teacher in the fall and in the spring. And remind me, this also includes the 8th graders that take Algebra 1, correct? Yes, yes. Any other questions? Okay. And as it does say on the bottom there, all of these scores did increase in all subjects except algebra from last year, which was just a very slight decrease from the prior year. So the other piece of data that we have now that we can share from secondary is the WIN Learning Career Readiness Assessment. And this is an assessment that assesses the skills that employers define as foundational to be career ready. And a 3 or higher on this assessment deems you to be career ready. And as you can see, our numbers definitely far exceed the state again. And again, the state goal here was to be 75% proficient in each one of the areas, and we were the only district in the state to be proficient in math, data, and reading, as in meeting the state goal of 75% or higher. Looking forward to this coming year, we're always working to try to get more students college or career ready. And starting this fall, because of what we've done before these seniors started, we've worked with this group of students to try to get them career ready even before they're a senior. So they still have more ways to become college or career ready, but it's the highest percentage that we've had based on years past. And a shout out to our high schools, because they have worked with all of our students, because there is a learning courseware that WIN Learning offers to help our students prepare for this assessment, and they have done a great job to try to get our students using that courseware. All right, and back to Mike.
So just to recap on those, we're not at 100% proficiency, and we are going to continue to work and press and grow until we get to 100%. But it is important to note, Matt said and Renee, how many categories we do have the highest scores in the state. The EOC, the high school exams, we're the only district to have at least 3 subject areas with that 75% proficiency goal. And excuse me, and then the WIN assessment, we're the only district in the state to have all 3 out of 3, so we're proud about that. So pretty much every category we're leading the state, and we always get the question, well, where do we stand nationally? That's what I'm always interested in too, like how do we compare to other places across the country? And it's really hard to know, because almost every state has a different assessment, they have different standards, so it's really hard to compare schools from state to state, because there's not really many common tests that everybody takes. There are a few though, the AP exams in high schools, not every student takes those, but those that do, SAT and ACT. So we have our SAT and ACT scores, but we do not have anything to compare it to, and we're not allowed to release ours yet. But typically, we always score higher than the state average and the national average in SAT and ACT. So that's one national benchmark we have. And then the other one, like I said, is AP, and we are allowed to talk about those scores tonight. But before we get into our student success, this slide shows the number of students taking an AP exam, or the number of AP exams taken. There's some duplicates in there, students taking more than one exam. And one thing we've been really focused on as a district is getting as many kids as possible into the most rigorous courses. And sometimes you expect when you have a large increase of students taking these courses, you're going to see a dip in scores, and we have not seen that at all. And there is so much research that supports if a student takes an AP level course, even if they don't pass the exam, they tend to do better in college. They're getting access, they're getting experience with college level courses. That's what the AP exam is. So as a reminder, you take the AP course. If you pass it and score a certain level on the exam, you get college credit for it. And typically it's a 3, 4, or 5 is considered passing. So you see the huge increase from 1,500 to 2,400 in 3 years. So we're excited with that. And this is super small, but you have it in front of you also. This shows our average passing rate, 3, 4, or 5, for some of the different exams. There's a few other exams that we offer that aren't up here, but it's the same trend. And you see the U.S. average on the right side of the paper, and then our average is in the middle. So for example, art history, 92% of our students pass. The national average is 63%. Biology, 98%. U.S. average is 68%. And South Carolina typically is a little bit ahead of the U.S. average, the state average, which we don't have yet, but usually only a few points. So maybe like from 63 to 66 or 67. South Carolina typically is higher than the national average in most of them. But this is just so exciting to see our scores in comparison to everybody else, the average, and how high our scores are. And again, that's a testament to all the work we do from when they get to us in kindergarten, what their parents do before that to get them focused on learning and all the way through. So we're excited. This is one piece of data that we could show how we compare to others across the country.
Dr. Waysmith, one of the things that surprises me is not the pass rate, because that's always been fantastic. I guess I'm pleasantly surprised, I guess, to see the increase in numbers of students or exams being taken, because we've also increased a ton of dual credit opportunities.
Right.
And so a lot of students have chosen, for whatever reason, different paths, and so that's even almost like exponential
Right.
in terms of students that are taking advanced courses. Just
Right.
This is the AP portion that we've got in front of us.
Certainly. We last year we calculated the number of AP or dual credit courses that we have. It was some point last year, I can't remember. And even like once you see it all on paper, it's wow. I think we had like 70 different courses where students can earn AP or college credit through our dual credit programs. That's a great opportunity for some students. Some students, AP is a great opportunity. Just a lot of choices that our students have, and they're taking advantage of them.
Would we be able to get this like posted on like our Facebook page or something? Just a couple
Certainly.
highlights,
Mhm.
like how because you said like we get this question a lot. How do we
Right.
compare? This is how FMSD compares to the rest of the U.S.
Yes. Yes, so the SAT and ACT we should have on the school report card. It will be on the school report card. So the SAT and the
They're
ACT.
coming out in the next couple of weeks, or October, is that what you
We're
said?
allowed to release them until the report card comes out.
Which is when?
October 15th.
October 15th.
Yes.
So we can do some of this now, and then
Right.
we just add some.
The AP stuff we could post now, yes.
Okay.
And it was perfect alignment. It was all going to be released from the state on October 1st, the day of a board meeting, but then they pushed it back 10 days, so.
Great.
So again, just really proud of our success. Looking forward to continue to push and push and push till we get to 100%. And with that, we'll take any questions you may have.
Yes. Oh, go ahead.
You want to
Any
go first?
member.
You want me to?
Dr. Federelli's on you.
Okay, so first off, again, it's a tremendous view of how our entire district functions, from the curriculum department supporting our teachers, to the leadership at our schools. Just tremendous results, exciting for everybody.
Thank you.
For me, maybe when you come back in October, some of the things that you reference pre-pandemic levels. Well, I don't remember what the pre-pandemic levels are. So maybe seeing what those scores were pre-pandemic and put into context of where we're going, I think would be helpful for the board, just to kind of see where we're still progressing or where we need to progress more. Number one, and then number two, I think the comparison to South Carolina data, it feels good. Like obviously we feel good that we're that much better, but I would like to see more longitudinal data, how we do year over year. So maybe a comparison to this is what our scores were in 2023 in all these different areas compared to 2024. So we can look and see how are we doing 3rd to 4th grade and 4th to 5th grade, that sort of thing, I think is, for me, a little bit, and I don't know how other board members feel, a little bit more meaningful. Obviously, I want to see the comparison to South Carolina because I think that's great for our community to see how we're comparing up compared to the rest of the state or rest of the nation. But for year-over-year improvement, I think that's something else that I'm interested in seeing in the results that we see here in the meeting. So
Certainly, we could have that at the next meeting.
I don't know. Those weren't really questions. Those were just statements. On to you, Mr. Brody.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. All right, couple questions. So, love this is wonderful, as usual, par for the course. Comment here, what I was happy to hear is what I've heard, I think, more so this evening than anything else. So we're acknowledging all of our successes. And what I'm also hearing is that we're taking if I look at the ELA, 2023, where we were 77.6%, in 2024, 76.9%. But I heard your team state that we're wanting to continue to improve. Could you share kind of like mitigating tools that we use or that we're considering, that we have in a pipeline that we will be using?
Certainly. So you've heard me talk a lot about PLCs, about teacher collaboration. Our teachers are the experts, and we want to set the conditions that allow them to get together on a regular basis to talk about teaching and learning, sharing best practices, seeing where their students are, talking about the classroom assessments they're giving, seeing how they could get even better. So that's always going to be our number one priority, is getting our teachers together to collaborate, because I think that's so much more powerful than buying a program or having a specific software, getting our experts to share what they know. And then also continuing to get better with our Tier 1, which is kind of like our overall instructional practices, and Tier 2, what are we doing when students don't get it the first time? Like with our Flex at the high schools, how we've pretty much completely revamped that over the past 2 years, and getting a little bit better. And not that we're not good at it, but just you're always striving to get better with our interventions, with our teachers getting together and saying, hey, this student did not do well on this, how can we help them?
Okay. Last one for you here, so I'll comment. So I know the last couple of years, you all have referenced that we visited the northern suburbs of Chicago, and that's where I'm from, the Lake County, and there's a school named Adelaide Stevenson that we've, I think, modeled or trying to model from a PLC perspective. But I'm actually curious because they're considered one of the best, if not the best, school district in the country, public school district in the country. The question I have is, what are lessons that we may have learned from them?
So just to recap for everybody, we have taken a couple groups, 3 different groups out to Stevenson High School in Illinois. They're recognized as one of the top high schools in the entire country. They do a lot of work with PLCs and getting teachers together to collaborate and getting really good at that and providing targeted interventions. So some of the lessons we've learned from them is even at the high school level, because it probably is a little bit harder at the high school level, the PLC process, but we see a school, it's a district, one school district, but seeing it being done in a public school that's very demographically similar, almost the same to us, and seeing how their results have increased over, they've been doing it for 15 years, so hopefully in 15 years we'll be where they are too. But again, going back to teacher collaboration and providing as many targeted interventions as you can. I like to tell on myself to teachers about how I taught when I was a teacher. And I kind of had the model of, I taught it, and if they got it, they got it, and if they didn't, then that was kind of on them. And that was kind of like, that's how we did it back then. And luckily, as I went through my years of a classroom teacher, I realized that, if it's just about giving the information, we could get AI to do that. We could get Google to tell the information. But the teacher is really the expert that's going to figure out exactly what that student needs, talk to other teachers as a group, kind of like medical rounds at a hospital when the doctors are talking together to figure out what a patient needs, and then coming up with plans to move forward. So I think those are some of the big takeaways we have from Stevenson High School.
Thank you so much.
Can I add also, and I think you guys will agree, as we spend time in our schools, one of the things that I've noticed over the last, 8 years, but I mean, it's been increasing, is the focus on analyzing data. And I think whether it happens in a PLC through collaboration or individual teachers, but I just think now there's so much focus on seeing what portion of this unit was obviously not well received by a group of students. And okay, what do I need to do differently for that portion of the unit? Or these students struggled in this area and these students struggled in this area, and how do I, so it's taken it down to the nth degree by analyzing the data. And I mean, we see that in the schools, mainly through PLCs, but I think it's a mentality of how to make sure that all the students are getting what they need. That's my 2 cents worth as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so for me, fantastic. I mean, I want these things blasted on our social media. I think this is something to really, really celebrate here. I want to make sure that I understood something correct. When we talked about the first slide with the ELA percentage of students in grades 3 through 8, did I hear it right that some students were not included in this reporting?
So there are very specific circumstances when a student would not count. Matt, would you like to share those? You want to come up here?
So there are in the accountability manual, there's stipulations, there's continuous enrollment from the 45th day to the 135th day. Some ML students don't count if they have been in the country only for a limited amount of time.
Got it.
So what these numbers represent are all the students that took the test. So when the report card comes out, we'll see that the final calculations will exclude some of those students from the denominator, and our scores hopefully will increase a little bit.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
And that's helpful for a student that may move in on the 80th day of school that only receive half of their instruction with us. That would be, those are the times when those students are taken out of the
If they show up the week before the test,
Right.
you're still taking the test,
Right.
right?
They still take the test, so that they would be included in here, but then I'll get pulled out.
Okay. Anything else? Nope. All right, thank you very much.
you.
Very exciting information. We're looking forward to Joe celebrating it with us through social media. And now, speaking of Mr. Burke, the topic that is of much anticipation on social media and
For
for
6 months now.
parents and teachers alike.
If only there was walk-up
We're going to talk
music.
about the calendar, I think.
Thought Joe was gonna take it since he walked up at the same time.
He is closest.
Good evening. Yes, I am going to be here tonight to talk about a very popular subject so everybody can get those vacations and timeshares and everything booked. 25-26 calendar. We've been back and forth on this calendar quite a bit since the last calendar went out. We received a lot of feedback over the course of the past year, basically, from all different groups. We've also been in touch with a lot of school districts, both in York County and out of York County, about all the different models out there. As we talked before, there are a lot of different models that are being used for modified year-round school. I can assure you this calendar does not have our students starting in mid-July like some of the ones I have seen around our state. So before we get into it, I wanted to let you know that in the discussions I've had specifically with York County, while none of the calendars have been approved yet, some of the districts haven't even gotten to the point of presenting, I feel like we're all going to be fairly close in what's presented, and probably if they're all approved, obviously they'll be very close in that point. I know that the other districts that are close to presenting, we've all had a lot of conversations and at least tried to have some cohesion across the county again, like we used to have before the Wild West of calendars kicked off. So we're going to talk about it tonight. We got some things I want to explain why they're at, and also talk to you about how we got to where we are. So with further ado, we'll just click right into it. As you can see this calendar, we are using or recommending a modified year-round calendar again. Some differences from this year where we had the split up of our breaks and tried to spread them out a little more through the year, start a little bit later, end a little bit earlier. The district, after looking at what we've seen across other districts and talking with our different groups, we think we would like to move towards the winter break week and I guess what you would call a first early spring break. I'm not sure what we would call the February one, but the winter break one is the October setup. So
Fall break?
Fall break, sorry, not winter break. Winter break is in December. Fall break in October. As you can see with this calendar though, just we'll start at the very beginning. One of the downsides to doing these calendars is we do come back earlier. We looked at a couple different options where we had the week at Thanksgiving instead of doing a week in October. That pretty much had the kids coming back right around the 7th. So you're really only buying 3 days back in your summertime. Teachers were still having to return that last week of July. So we went back and forth on it. So we decided to go ahead and go with the full week, which honestly is what we've seen some other districts in our area doing. Seems to be very popular, especially with their communities like to travel and teachers like to have a little extra time off. So we said, if you're going to have to bring them back that early, we might as well just go ahead and bite the bullet and do it that way. So this one features a start date for students of the 4th. It backs up the teacher start date to the 28th. While we're talking about that, I know there's been some question in the past, like with this year, teachers coming in before the 2nd of August, new, not all teachers, just new employees coming in before the 2nd of August. It does add an extra insurance payment to their checks, but it also gives them coverage for August. So they are getting something for that value. They're not just coming in and paying double and not seeing a return on it. If something were to happen in August, they would be covered and be able to use that insurance. So that's the trade-off for that early change. It was not as much of an issue at the beginning of this school year, but.
And you said it's for any new teacher to South Carolina, really. It's not just to our district, but it would be if they were new to South Carolina.
It's new to South Carolina.
Yes, new to South Carolina.
Yes.
Because they are, as Mr. Burt mentioned, they're now eligible for a full month of insurance through PEBA. So we have to take out the premiums for that month.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a requirement if you're going to start at that time frame.
It's not just brand new teachers, though. It's new teachers to
To
the
the
state
year.
of South Carolina.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But we'll be able to tell them when we onboard them.
Yes, of
Hey, your
course.
first
Yeah.
paycheck will be
And this came
small.
up, we dealt with this year, even though we didn't have the extra weeks, we still started enough that this became an issue, obviously, with this current school year too. That's actually how we identified it to start with, to be honest with you. So that was a concern, but that's one, again, if you're going to start early to get the 90-day semester in, that deadline is something we're gonna have to deal with regardless of what we do. So if we're gonna have to deal with it regardless of what we do, we might as well look at a calendar like this. There's a couple of unique things in here on that first semester. For example, you'll notice there is a half day in October right before a teacher work day. That was actually a compromise for elementary schools. They've lost just about all of their PD days, especially early in the year, to the letters training. So we put that half day there for them to be able to handle their parent-teacher conferences, give them a little bit of a concession being that they're having to transition and put all of this time from their professional development days into the letters training. So that's why that's not at the end of the year like we traditionally see the two there. Thanksgiving break is pretty much standard. Winter break, we're in that kind of awkward period where Christmas falls in either a mid-week or during that week, so it's kind of hard to wrap the semester into the 22nd and 23rd. Most people are not going to want to come here at that point anyway, so that's why the break starts and ends right there at the 19th. Standard full 2-week break for parents and staff. We have a teacher work day on the 5th coming back in January. That's used especially for high schools to roll over the semester, get ready to start after the end of the first semester. It's also great for the district. I know we haven't had this in a while and I don't want to jinx it, but if we were to have any severe cold weather issues that could affect buses, HVACs, those kind of things, that actually gives us a day to get all the buildings checked and back up and running before kids are showing back up. What we did do on this one in February, unlike October, we were able to tie the week break to a existing holiday. So we really only had to buy back 4 days from the summer, if you can think of it that way. The extra days in the calendar come from taking them from the summer. So in this particular case, we only had to buy 4 days back to give that week off. Staff and students both still have that week off. Pretty standard with March. The spring break is in April this year. Basically, it's the first full week of April. Easter, I believe, is on the 5th that day. We do have an early release day leading into it. And then, of course, you see the end of the school year on the 29th of May there. So most of it's pretty standard with the exception of the addition of the 2 weeks in there. Before we go too far into this, I wanted to say I also did some calculations of where we're at in this current school year, as opposed if this is the calendar we choose, where we will be at if we start here. It's actually still a 10-week summer for students and a 9-week summer for teachers. So with our end date this year to this start date proposed, you're looking at still a 10-week summer and about a 9-week for teachers. There's one teacher workday at the end of the year that throws it off, so technically it's 8 3/4, but so that's what you're looking at for summer. So that being said, I'd love to answer your questions about anything we have in here and answer any of this as to why we made these decisions.
Okay, got a couple.
Yes, sir.
So first one is, are there any takeaways from the previous year? Or any,
Yeah.
the last couple years?
Again, well, the last couple of years have been kind of, like I said, when I called it the Wild West, I really meant that. Without any true guidance on what a modified calendar requires or is, everybody is melding the requirements that are always going to be required, like your number of makeup days and your half days you're allowed and all that stuff, the numbers of PD days, professional development days, and melding that into these new calendars. Again, like I said, I've seen calendars all over the place. We've seen them with huge early start dates in middle of July. Most of them still try to end around the same time because they try to at least have that 1 month off. There is a whole different thought process on the weeks off versus intercession versus different things there. We got a lot of information back from districts on those as to how we made this. So truly because the calendar has been so stringent for all 17 years I've been in schools, it's really kind of been just wide open. I think that's probably the most biggest takeaway over the last couple of years.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the last question. So, I'm not a calendar expert. I would never profess that. I've been around our schools. I've been in the schools, around the schools, and what I call kind of our engine, our teachers. Like when we go through this calendar exercise, like can you kind of share with the community, if you will, like this is you all's expertise, and
Sure.
we know that the teachers, I think the world of teaching has changed, unless someone tells me differently in the audience. But I think there's something that's changed, or things have changed, and many influences. But if you would just kind of help us, kind of share with us, like what we've done, or what have we done to think about the teachers and support staff and
Sure.
administrators when we think about this exercise?
Yeah, I will say this, and I just gather on my personal experience with this too. Going back to the old calendars, it was so stringent and everything was set. I think everybody had just set into a routine. And that was fine for many years. We hit the COVID days, and that threw everything off kilter with being out of school, being AB days, being, in or out of school. And there was a lot of stress and strain, and we saw that in the academic report tonight too. There was a lot of slump for students. We know there was a lot of just over mental stress for teachers and staff and the community and parents. So I think all of that has led to the point, just by happenstance, that the modified calendars came about, where people saw the chance to, hey, let's get a little break here and there. I need a minute. I need to catch my breath. Need a chance to rejuvenate myself. So I think all of that, coupled with the timing of these calendars coming out, is really what has led a lot of people to start looking at these as, legitimate options. I'll be honest, prior to COVID, all anybody wanted to do was get 90 days in before winter break and get out as soon as you could before the summertime. that was really all anybody cared about. But I think after going through those years of such a stressful and mentally draining time, that people have looked at these types of models and they see the benefit in the in taking a break for not only the students, but the staff as well.
I see. Thank you.
And that's my take on it.
Yep. Thank you. First of all, great. I mean, amazing job. I think this is one of the best calendars I've seen brought in front of the board. And I think you really took a lot of consideration to comments that have been made over the last year, both from staff and from parents and community members. I think this considers a lot of it. Do I think it's going to make everybody happy? No, but I do think when you see starting earlier and you see those weeks built in throughout the year, I think it helps. Anybody that's been in a school knows that stretch from when you get back from the winter break to spring break is a long time, and having that week in February, late February, I think is wonderful. My question, I think, is probably for Mr. Young. I'm guessing is one of the things that we heard about building in these weeks, or one of the complaints that we heard about building in these weeks, is that groups, after school groups, aren't going to take that time off. Is there any discussion at the state level about the high school league taking into consideration when schools build this calendar, working within, pushing back maybe playoff dates so that these weeks off would be true weeks off for student athletes, for band members, things of that nature?
Before Gray answers that, on the athletic side, we have talked with Leroy Springs, and they're gonna simply take the programs they would do in the summer and offer them during the 2 weeks.
Try to replicate them during those weeks.
In that regard, so just.
So for the younger students.
And I got a parcel on that too. so
Yeah.
go ahead.
From the high school league standpoint, I have not heard of any discussions going on because there's so many different calendars in different districts. So, but it is something, if we're seeing that most of our districts in South Carolina are starting early, I think it's definitely a good point to bring up with the high school league moving forward.
I want to piggyback on that. Have you seen, for those who started really early, because you mentioned some started in July, I forgot what they call them, the down periods,
Yep.
Intercession.
No, what's the word?
When you can't be practicing, you can't be.
Yeah, the things where you can't practice, dead season.
season.
Those, has any of that been amended to allow kids that are in school to start practicing?
Yeah.
No.
No,
The short answer is no.
I think honestly, no. The answer is going to be that you would treat it the same way you treat your spring sports in the fall. So
Yeah.
whatever the rules are, you're still following them during those dead times. I did talk to Clover about, because obviously they've been doing a calendar similar to this, and I asked them how this is going for their sports, and he did let me know that their sports continues. They're still having their practices, but they do work on some augmented schedules. They've also seen it be a good time for some of the sporting camps to happen as well too. So I think their sports parents have just accepted it at this point. I don't think anybody's happy about it. They can't just take a vacation, but it is continuing, and I don't think you're going to see anything at the state level unless everybody uses the same standardized calendar.
And I was going to say, now, like baseball, softball, I know when I coached at the high school, we had tournaments during spring break. So
Yes.
we never got a spring break, but I think you're going to start seeing that in the fall and in the winter with basketball in February, and then obviously football, volleyball.
Well, and I was thinking more along the lines of, I use football as the example. Last I heard, I'm sort of dated in my football information, but like two-a-days couldn't start until August 1st, and now you're already in school before you get to that point, almost.
Yeah, I think those districts that have chose to augment their schedules that far into the future, they've just had to figure out ways to adapt it. But I don't think you're going to see anything sweeping unless they go back to the state mandates.
Right.
Yeah, where these calendars will fall at, and we don't want that.
And I just want to clarify, I have one question, and I just want to clarify. I think I heard you say that in order to have the 4 days in February and the 5 days in October, the only way to make that magic happen was for teachers to start the 28th of July.
Yeah.
Like, that hurts my feelings for the teachers, but that's the reason.
So if you didn't have that week, if we were on our schedule, basically everything's. I always joke about it being Tetris, but literally, if you took the block of purple out, everything slides down. So now your start date's on the 11th, your teachers are coming back on the 4th, and that would still be 90 days throughout the remainder of the year. So The only way to get these days off is to slide those blocks in from the summer. That's the trade-off.
Makes perfect sense. I was just making sure that I.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that's the trade-off. I mean, there's only so many days in the year that we can continue to play with. So, I do also want to point out, because I want to make sure we're very clear on this, the purple days that say break for students and eligible staff.
That was my question.
The district will not be closed those days. There are plenty of staff that are year-round, 240 employees, that will, I hope not, that will be in the buildings. You know, most everybody in this room is still going to be in these buildings and going to be working.
Or we'll use vacation days.
Or
instead
using
of
vacation. Yeah, I was going to say, if you wanted to take these days off, you would have to take vacation days. The flip side of that coin is the majority of our teachers and everybody's in a classroom, they're going to qualify for it. So basically, the rule of thumb is if you're off in the summer, you're going to be off during these weeks.
Okay.
That's an easy way to think of it. We got a few different categories, 220s or some of those types of things that we'll have to work around and see where we're at on that. But for the most part, if you're in a classroom, you're going to be off these weeks.
Go ahead.
just said, I'm confident there will be others that will disagree with this, but I think, like Mr. Farrelly said over here, you did an excellent job, and I commend you for it.
I appreciate it. Yep. Never made a calendar that everybody loved. I will say that. Not that good.
So now you make me feel bad when I ask questions.
You can ask questions.
No, so couple clarified questions and actual questions. These weeks are not remediation.
Nope.
So I'm having flashbacks to this time last year, right?
I'm actually glad you asked that question because I wanted to talk
To
about
be
that
clear,
too.
right, these are time off, there's no
Yes.
remediation involved, there's no financial impact like we had talked about last year. And I think the reason is because we learned that wasn't necessarily the
Yes, in
best use of
talking with
time.
a lot of our districts, and this is districts beyond York County, but even in York County, talking with them as well too. What a lot of them have found is, number one, they're very low attended by students. But it's easier to staff because, again, it have to be a volunteer position or we'd have to pay extra for these days. It's easier to staff the one in October because everybody wants the extra money for Christmas. By the time you hit the February dates, it's a ghost town. And that's been pretty universal in all the districts I've talked to. Some of them even have trouble staffing the one in October, but most of them have all been pretty low attended by students. But what I did hear, though, is a lot of their schools and other programs, like we talked about with the Greenway, have done camps or have these exterior programs out there. They turn into really fun times that some of the facilities become available for some of these other uses that the community has wanted to do in these off times of the school year, but we just can't do it because we have everybody in the building. So I think that's going to be a fortunate thing to move in. But yeah, we do not have it figured in currently for a district-wide remediation for those times.
And for acute clarity, I want to make sure I heard you clear. You believe it's possible that some of the local school districts may be close to?
Yes, yeah. In the conversations I've had, I feel pretty confident in saying that I think most of our York districts are going to be at least considering models like this. So I think we're going to be pretty close on it. I think there may be a day or two here that's a difference, but I think this is going to be a pretty similar model, at least proposed across the districts.
Thank you, Joe.
And no school on Halloween.
No. That was a fortunate byproduct as well, too. Like I said, I met with Dr. Wakesness and I met with Peter Olinger about what we could do for elementary, and that was one. And fortunately, our high schools, were open to the option of moving one of those half days off. I know they like to use them for the exams, but this was, like I said, a concession to elementary.
So that was actually another one of my thoughts, or questions. You talk about half days. Right now, we've got the other half day before the Christmas holiday, which is often really important because Christmas is on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday.
Sure.
But now that it's all the way until the following Thursday, that could potentially be a different.
Yeah, but the high schools like to use that for their end of year or end of first semester exams.
Okay.
So that's
All right.
why that one's generally, we usually place that one there going into the break if we've got the full 90 days,
Okay.
because that's one they like to use for those earlier exams.
Okay.
I'm sure they would love 4, so they could do 2 and 2,
I
but
know.
the state only allows 3, so.
All right. And then just one other thought for consideration. Definitely in the feedback last year and throughout this year, everybody has a lot of people have expressed the interest in this this fall week off and a February week as well to sort of reset. not knowing what the following year looks like, I noticed that we do go beyond Memorial Day
Yes,
at the end, and I don't know if
yeah.
that
And
shortens
I've
the
actually
following year.
started to look at that as well in the hopes that this is going to become our model and we can get back to our 2-year cycle. So if we were to stay with a model like this,
Yes.
from looking at the calendars, I did this today, everything cycles a day off. So if we were to come back on the same start date, we'd be looking at the 3rd on that Monday. We'd still be getting out the Friday before the week for Christmas. The only difference in that calendar, the 26-27 school year, is it's an even year, so we would have to have election day off. That kind of threw a little bit of a monkey wrench in it. I'm trying to figure out how to slide everything around to still make that work. But so you'd be looking at where we would end that last week of May, all of June would be off, and then you'd have the 4 weeks in July with coming back in the last week.
So it would be an 8-week summer, essentially, or maybe 9.
9 for kids, 8 for teachers, where it's 10 this summer and 9 for teachers. So yeah, everything would slide a week because if this were to become the ongoing model. Yeah.
Because I like the downtime in February. There's not really anywhere I want to go in February, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something else we can look at and see. I would love for us to get back to our 2-year process because that was really beneficial to our families and staff.
Right.
But yeah, if we were to look at making a change, if we thought that would be, I mean, it may depend on what we get from feedback from this calendar. That's the other thing. We're also going to ask if anybody who's seeing this and want to provide feedback. We have our communications at fortmillschools.org email address. We'd love to hear more feedback on it if anybody would like to provide some opinions as well between now and the next board meeting.
So nobody should go booking vacations based on this calendar as
Not
presented. This
until
is a
it's
first
approved by
reading,
you guys.
right?
This
This
is
is a
first
first
reading.
reading only.
Yes,
We
it's
hope
first
to
reading
approve
only.
it at the next meeting. We hope.
But the plan is unless there is some major shift, this is the recommendation we would like to move forward with and represent it to you at the next board meeting.
Any other questions, comments?
Joe, I'll tell you, I'll tell you what I personally see. I just see a whole lot of thought that went into this. I mean, I think you took a lot of, I don't know the word I really want to use. But you took it. and you crafted it in a way that I think is really, really thoughtful. It's really well done. Good job.
I appreciate it. I'll just say that I did talk to pretty much everybody in every department and cabinet and make sure that this would fit with what they're doing and what they've got going on. Joe's obviously worried about the construction. Peter and Gail's are worried about elementary and high school. So we're trying to accommodate everything we can as well as meet the teacher and community needs. So it really is the whole cabinet comes together to put this in. So I appreciate that. Yep.
You mentioned construction because this is the year that we open the elementary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the following is the middle.
Yes. Yeah, so shortening Joe's summer up for building is not always the most fun.
Okay.
We just have to make sure we don't get too many rain days, and I think he'll be able to make it. So,
Can I ask one more?
Yes.
Just one more. These break weeks are not yellow, so they are not potential weather makeup days.
no, they're not potential. We still already have our 3 weather makeup days marked as usual, and of course, now that I will admit, now that we're on the virtual system, if they happen during the school year, we're able to usually pivot pretty well and do it on the day we're missing. But we do have those built in. They're not. You don't see the asterisks in the calendars, but they are marked in the middle there. Yeah. We're required by law to have at least 3 marked. I think we have 4 or 6.
Yep. All righty.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Very
you.
exciting. Can't wait to hear the feedback. All right. We have one action item, and that is the approval of a year-end transfer that we talked about a couple weeks ago. Ms. Bordeaux?
Yes, at the last meeting, I shared with you a recommendation for an additional year-end transfer. This is based on our estimates, and we're very close now on finalizing all of our funds for the audit. So I'm very confident in these numbers, once again, as presented to you at the last meeting. But I am recommending that you approve an additional transfer of $2,667,716. Of that, $1,317,716 would equate to the value of 2 debt service mills, and we would be able to reduce the millage to our taxpayers in our debt service fund by 2 mills. We're currently at 74 mills. When we presented the bond referendum plan, we said our potential high would be 89 mills. Because we do a gradual issuance of this debt, we do not have to go to the full 89 mills this year. We would have to go to 85 mills, but with this, we would be able to go down to 83 mills. So I think that's the huge benefit for our taxpayers for the October bills coming out. The other piece of this would be $50,000 to supplement middle school athletics for last school year we just finished. We gave you a very detailed athletic presentation at the last meeting, and $300,000 for our high school athletic programs to basically supplement the funding to close out the fiscal year 2023-24. And then the remaining $1 million would go into the contingency fund. As you just mentioned, we are going to be opening 3 new schools back-to-back budget years. So this is planning ahead for potentially what the impact's going to be on our general operating budget during those times.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the transfer request for $1,317,716 to transfer to debt service for millage reduction, $50,000 transfer to middle school athletics, $300,000 transfer to high school athletics, and $1 million transfer to the contingency fund for a total of $2,667,716.
Second.
Motion and a second for the transfers as described by Mr. Bolden totaling 7716. Is there any further discussion?
I'll just comment that I think this was a good distribution for those, a good allocation of those final funds.
Little bit of benefit to taxpayers, some savings, some much-needed athletic
Yep.
funds, all good stuff.
Yep.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
All righty. And now we are on to our superintendent for a superintendent's report.
Getting near the end. We'll begin with calendar of events. Of course, the Labor Day holiday and the meeting tonight. I actually went to the superintendent symposium last week. Don, I forgot to switch that on the calendar. It was in August. Let's talk a little bit about the school board visits on Monday. What we did to try to give more time and not be so rushed, we went down from 4 schools to 3 and added days we were going to visit during the year. I think we were down to 5 and we went to 7 maybe or
Yep,
something
7
like
times
that.
3.
And next year we'll have to, I think we'll have room to slot in one more. But what we plan to do, we started them earlier, 10:45 instead of 11. Go to 40. I think it was 45-minute blocks. If the math works out, that would be from 11:30 to 12:15, and then the last school would be 12:15 to 1 o'clock. You see how we did that?
Yep.
So hopefully it won't be quite as rushed. We'll try this for a year and see how it goes. And I think that's the order we decided to go in as far as travel. Orchard Park first, Kingstown second, and Banks Trail Middle third. It's going down the Parkway. Questions about that? School board meeting on the 17th. School board's regional advocacy meeting hosted by Fort Mill School District on the 25th. And I think that's online too, right? Or is that an in-person?
It's in person.
It's in person.
Okay. And then the 2-hour early release day on the 27th of September. In October, the school board meeting.
Is there in September a teacher forum as well?
Yeah, they just,
On the
I think they're
30th?
trying to,
2 days.
shooting for the 20,
The 20th was one of them.
we had one day and.
Okay, so we don't know
somebody
for sure
couldn't
yet.
come. They hadn't
I
finalized
think they
yet,
made
but
it just the
just the
30th
30th.
was
Okay.
the calendar
which
invite.
is a Monday,
Oh, yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
yeah. School board meeting on October 1, that'll be the night that we'll present the options from the demographer for the elementary school redraw of attendance lines. And that won't be our recommendation, that'll just be the work of the third-party demographer, what they came up with. That's the big item on that meeting that night. Then we have the Fort Mill School District Board Candidate Forum hosted by the Fort Mill School District Teacher Forum on the 9th. Catawba Ridge High School at 6. School board visits again to River Trail, Catawba Ridge, and Forest Creek on the 7th. The 11th, no school for students and staff, potential weather makeup day. This is October now. Teacher work day on the 14th, and school board meeting on the 15th. On the 15th is when we will make the administrative recommendation for the attendance lines, the option that we'll recommend. Then you'll have all the way to November the 5th, election night, to make your final decision as a board. So those are the
Questions or other
Just
calendar items?
on the 9th, when the school visits are, Miss Branning and I will be representing the board in DC with Congressman Norman and our senators.
Excellent.
So
We will miss
and-
you, but
And Leanne and Amy helped me with some information so I can tell our story about how we work to meet all the needs of all of our students, but not with all of the funding. So we have to ask our taxpayers to fill that in. So I have my story written.
good luck with that.
I'll just tell it.
That's right.
Now, let's talk a
All
little
right.
bit about enrollment. What I think is we're about to, for years, I've watched this thing, and you have the folks who've been on the board for multiple years. Most of our growth was occurred during the summer. This year, that's not the case. So I think we're about, because of the interest rates and because of the inventory, lack of inventory of homes, I think it's so hard to get into Fort Mill. We had growth when you compare first day last year to first day this year. So we're showing growth, but I've talked with York, Rock Hill, and Clover. I think one of those even fell in numbers. I think it was just a strange summer particularly with the situation here in Fort Mill in regards to availability of housing and interest rates. Now, what I think we're going to see, and you saw it this month, we grew by 43. I think the impact fees are not slowing down. We're still buying impact fees. We got Elizabeth going. We've got some activity on Pleasant Road with some apartments. And it seems like there's another area. TKK, did the Game On
Yeah,
have any?
that area is now under construction, the area where Game On was gonna be.
So I think we're gonna see some build out, and we already are anticipating growth at Riverview because of Elizabeth. So I think this year, we're gonna see growth during the year more during the year as opposed to during the summer. Now, that may transfer back. I guess we'll just have to let time tell what happens with the interest rates and with the economy. And I think no matter who wins the election, the interest rates are gonna go down, I think, because housing has got to get better than it is. So I think we're gonna see changes, and a lot of it is out of our control. But I was asked today on a straight talk, what is there a saturation point? And I guess there might be. I don't know where it is, because we still are selling impact fees and we still have available land. But the growth is not as robust as it's been, but it's still growth. So that's my observation. I think we're gonna, and I could be wrong. I can't bet you on this one, Anthony.
So, I was gonna ask, okay.
Bet my quarter. I'm just
Okay.
saying it. I've looked at this thing for a long time, and this is the first summer. The 180th day, we had 18.4 something, and I think we're just now getting up to
18.4.
18.4. So that went the whole year. We added a little bit trickling in each month last year. So, and last summer wasn't as robust as the summer before. So I think we'll just have to see what happens in the market and in the economy.
18.7?
18.6.
Oh,
18.5
I would add in a couple things. That's part of the reason I am curious to see what the numbers are as far as projected future developments, and even if the timing is a little further out. But the other thing, and we've talked about this for the last couple of years, if you look at the second page of the numbers where you see the grade levels, 2 years ago, kindergarten was smaller. Last year, kindergarten and first grade was smaller. And I think, again, back to the types of houses and the cost of houses being built, they are not as conducive to a young family with a 5 and 6 year old, right? A lot of second houses for people, further in their lifespan. So we'll see if as those younger grades trickle through the system, does that help offset some of the growth?
Yeah, we didn't show the growth at the elementary. We showed more growth at middle and
Middle.
high, which is exactly what you're pointing out.
But I also think the starting early, because of where so many of our students move from, that the 10-day numbers may not be as good of an indication on a year like this year as they have been in the past, because
Exactly
we're just now at Labor Day when a lot of people from up north are used to moving and starting school.
Right.
So, we'll see. 18
Dr. Epps, you don't believe that when we look at, let's say, next 5-year projection that we've seen, you don't think that's significantly compromised, do you?
No, I don't think so. In fact, that's the work Dale's doing now. We'll get an updated 5 and 10 year lookout based on his numbers, so it'll be more accurate in regards to the impact fee study.
The part that will be interesting, though, is it's not only the number of houses being built, but the percentage of students in our community that are attending Fort Mill School District, right? Because homeschool is on the rise. There are a few new charter schools that weren't here 5 years ago,
Right.
right?
I think I was asked that question again today, and that, you talk about the charter schools taking the money off the top, Leanne. That's one of the challenges going forward for all public schools in South Carolina. But they asked me how many did I think it was significant. I don't think it's a big number for us. It might be bigger for some of the other districts around us, as far as losing students to
Right,
those
right.
schools.
But more may develop, and who knows, right?
That's right.
Anything else on numbers?
No, an attendance update, we had a IT issue, right, Donna? We had, some software's not talking to another software, and we couldn't pull the numbers, so we've got some new software in place that,
But everybody usually attends at the 95, 96%
usually,
rate, so
we had-
thank you all for showing up every day.
They all win.
Everybody's a winner this month.
Everybody
Yay.
wins. Yay.
that's all I have.
Nothing else?
Nothing else.
All right, we are in need of an executive session to discuss personnel recommendations, so thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you soon. We're going to move into executive session.